All right, to those of you tuned in via radio and viewing, we do apologize for this obvious mishap in our audio. I've just gotten the indication that we are in fact on, and therefore I will just recap. Obviously, there were salutations in the start, but we don't have to go through that again. As usual, the Prime Minister will make opening remarks, and then he will take questions from the media. Thank you for your patience, and we now invite the Honorable Prime Minister to address us.
I suspect the new equipment is causing some problems for the guys, you know? So I want to again say good afternoon to all of you and thank you for coming. I look forward to taking your questions this afternoon on the issues you deem relevant to the people of Dominica. I thought we should meet today not only to allow you the opportunity to pose your questions, but also to highlight the many positive things going on in our country. Most recent is the report from the International Monetary Fund, which is predicting growth for Dominica at an average of 4.5% during 2024-2025. The IMF has a positive growth outlook for our economy based on the return of stayover tourism figures to the pre-pandemic levels, several expansion initiatives in agriculture, and our significant progress with priority infrastructure projects. The IMF forecasts that inflation is projected to decline to as much as 2% in 2024-2025, supported by our imminent transition to geothermal production, the ongoing international airport project, hotel projects which will expand our tourism capacity. I also want to highlight a most hopeful section of the IMF report, which said that inflation fell from its 2022 peak of 9.7% to 2.3% at the end of 2023. I'm aware that many of you continue to raise the concerns about the price of goods and the impact of imported inflation due to various world events on our price structure. I think we can take comfort from these numbers as we look ahead to 2025, numbers dropping from 9.7% to 2.3% at the end of 2023. The IMF pointed out to our challenges with regards to elevated public debt, a tight fiscal space, but said public debt is set to decline in coming years based on the government's conscientious efforts to consolidate and boost public finances. The IMF commended the government of Dominica for the measures taken in the past year to decrease spending, citing a decline in the public wage bill. Like the IMF, we have long acknowledged the risk to our CBI program stemming from an uncertain global environment, as well as the potential negative impacts of climate change. I have previously underscored the impact of geopolitical tensions, leading to adverse global financial conditions, which is affecting trade and commodity prices. Dominica, as you know, is vulnerable to natural disasters, which have in the past led to huge capital losses and widespread devastation of the economy, thus hindering our growth. These challenges do exist, and we're taking them head on every single day. But make no mistake about it, this is a good report from the International Monetary Fund. Dominica, despite the many shocks to our economy since 2015, is making strides towards a real sustainable growth and recovery. The IMF is proposing more ambitious measures to protect ourselves against disaster risk and broaden the revenue base, including the implementation of investment projects with high economic returns, such as the international airport, geothermal, the hotels, the extension of Douglas Chelsea Airport, and the cable car. And we can talk a bit more about this because there's a lot we can be proud of and hopeful about in terms of the investments that this government is making. In respect to the international airport, work is progressing rapidly with a significant number of Dominicans currently engaged on the project. This is the project that will transform the island's economic landscape, providing direct employment for skilled and capable citizens, as well as indirect opportunities for farmers, fishermen, taxi operators, vendors, hoteliers, and other services. It is our view in the government, and of course the views of Dominicans, and the views of international arbiters, that the international airport is a project that will certainly bring the windfall to our country. More people come in, more consumption. More consumption means more tax revenue and more benefits to the people of our country. And with regards to the Douglas Chels Airport, we will soon commission the expansion to ensure that we can continue to attract visitors to our country in large numbers and ease travel into our country. We have invested heavily in the exploration of geothermal energy, which will dramatically reduce electricity costs and contribute to growth of the business sector. Next month, we will go to the Parliament to seek approval for a $103 million loan from the World Bank to construct the transmission system from Loda to Fokole. With CBI funds, we are constructing homes across Dominica for our most vulnerable. By the end of this year, we will hand over 250 homes to deserving citizens. Just yesterday, Monday, 42 individuals and families received keys to their resilient homes under the Housing Recovery Project. We're investing over $160 million in the East Coast Road from Boadiab to Pegua. This will ease access and add value to economic activity in this part of our country. Soon, we will spend over $170 million on the Lube to Bacatel Road, literally opening up new pathways to economic development in the south of Dominica. We have recognized the urgent need to build food security and are investing heavily in fisheries, aquaculture, farm infrastructure, livestock farming, all to empower our farmers to produce more and increase their incomes from their farms. Very soon, we will also equip farmers. We'll also equip farmers with hydroponic systems to help increase the production of vegetables in our country. 6 schools will be under construction throughout the course of this year, and several hotels are near completion to enhance the accommodation sector and take tourism to new heights. I know there has been concern about outstanding tuition fees for our students attending U.S. universities. In the past months, we have honored our commitment to our students and continue to service our outstanding commitments and debts to those universities. At one particular university, we have taken our bill from US $3.2 million to just over $450,000. So we are continuing to take care of our students and ensure they can earn the degree. The hope is that they return to Dominica to assist in our development. With all of these initiatives, what we need is the support of the Dominican people. I make a special appeal to our citizens to join this process of development to build a sustainable future for our people. We must move away from the persistent attitude of doom and gloom. We cannot make meaningful progress if we insist on highlighting only the challenges and ignoring all the good things happening around us. Ask yourself, how can I contribute to the development of this country? How can I help my community move forward? How can I improve my personal circumstances and that of my family? The choice lies with each of you. Let us be more productive. Let us display a greater love for our country by pooling our talents, our resources, our skills to build our patrimony. I also want to give you a quick preview of plans to observe the 20th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Dominica and China. I will lead a delegation to the People's Republic of China this week on the invitation of the Chinese government. I think it's important to mark this occasion because there can be no argument that our partnership with China has resulted in significant benefits for Dominica. Across the length and breadth of Dominica, we see the tangible investments in health, agriculture, education, and infrastructural development. In the aftermath of 2 disasters, China gave valuable support to rehabilitate infrastructure and rebuild livelihoods, and provided life-saving vaccines and health equipment to assist in the management of COVID-19. So China has been good to Dominica, and I look forward to the opportunity to convey our gratitude to the leadership of China in the next few days. I will, during my official visit to China, hold meetings with the President of China, the Premier of China, among other high-ranking officials of the government of the People's Republic of China. And of course, we shall provide more information to the media and of course to the country over the next few days about our activities to celebrate this momentous occasion. I will pause now at this moment to allow the media to ask questions of myself. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. I'm merely here as a facilitator, and I see Carlisle is ready to, as he liked to say, bat. So, Carlisle, please go ahead. All right, that's fine.
Next one is an issue dealing with LIAT. We know LIAT has officially gone into liquidation, and which has also affected Dominica. We know that a number of Dominicans were employed with LIAT. Antigua is trying to do some situation. Is Dominica going to be part of that? And when will the Dominicans and the other persons who needs to be paid, when will they be paid as it relates to the liquidation process? And the third one is we seem to have an issue with the issuance of passports. At one time, everything seemed to have been flowing very well. All of a sudden, there seems to be a lull in the issuance of passports. Can you give us some update on that, please? Thank you.
With regards to the question on the European Union and the recent pronouncements by the EU with regards to its visa-free regime for countries who have visa-free access to the Schengen states, and more particularly with regards to countries with citizenship by investment programs. Now, as you know, there are countries within the Caribbean with the OECS who have these programs: Dominica, Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Grenada have these programs. Obviously, the concerns have been raised by these countries, the EU bloc, with regards to this program starting first with countries within the EU with such programs, and the need for all of us to take certain actions to set aside the concerns which the EU in particular would have had in respect to those programs and the potential risk that they have stated that these programs could cause to their countries. We've been in touch with the EU. As you know, earlier this year in January, the EU delegation came here. The head of the visa policy unit of the European Union was in Dominica looking for delegation to engage us in discussions. And as you are aware, Dominica has taken some very comprehensive measures to allay and to set aside the concerns of the European Union and other partners who we engage in on this matter. Further to that, the countries within the OECS who have these programs, we have met jointly, and we've agreed to take some joint actions, some of which will be not limited to, but include having the same legislation to deliver our programs, to ensure that the application forms are uniform, to ensure that all our due diligence processes are the same, to ensure that there is more sharing of information among ourselves with regards to the program, and also looking at setting a minimum price structure for our programs, so that nobody will be able to go below a particular fixed rate. So all of these things that we have negotiated among ourselves. I will sign this memorandum I have actually signed this memorandum of agreement I signed this morning, having concluded the discussions with the other partners, and we are with others to sign on this. I believe that this agreement will place us, all of us, in a much stronger position in terms of our response to the concerns which the EU would have raised. Other concerns which the EU would have had, for example, the changing of names. In Dominica's case, we have dramatically dealt with this, and so it's an evolving process. We are not indifferent to the concerns raised by the European Union, but we are satisfied and confident that we have taken the necessary actions in response to the concerns raised by the European Union, and we'll continue to engage them in that discussion. We've provided them with all of the legislation that we've put in, the new legislation that went to Parliament in December to bring forth, and so it's an evolving process, and we'll continue to engage them on this. We are still awaiting from them, following their visit to Dominica, whatever specific recommendations they have for us in respect to additional actions which we have to take. So we're waiting that proposal from them. So we always maintain that the program is important to us from an economic and financial standpoint, but we will never take action that would compromise the integrity of our program or compromise the security of any of our partners. And so we're very strident in respect to this. So the decision that they've taken, it really is in response to concerns raised by their own citizens and their own governments, and to put systems in place to ensure that their concerns can be alleviated or set aside in full. So we're mindful of this, and we'll continue to act decisively in respect to our response in this. Okay? And of course, the European Union, like every other country, appreciates how important this program is to us in the OECS as an important source of development assistance, as an important source of non-tax revenue, an important source of foreign direct investments. And in Dominica's case, it can't be more apparent in terms of the positive impact that the CBI has had and continues to have on the way of life of every single citizen in Dominica. With regards to LIAT 2020, as I've said before, we are prepared to play our part as a government, as a country, in any effort towards improving air travel within the Caribbean. And if we go back to contemporary times, Kali, you will recall that we invested in LIAT 1974 Limited. And as a matter of fact, when we invested then, we were heavily criticized for investing in LIAT 1974 Limited, because people felt that we were investing in a failed company, in a company that was losing money, and we were just throwing good money at old And I indicated to the country then, to those critics, that if LIAT doesn't fly for one day in the Caribbean, we're in trouble. And if it doesn't fly at all, we're in real deep trouble. Unfortunately, this has come to pass, and I would have preferred that my words were not profound. But this came to pass, and we have seen the dramatic impact on air travel in the Caribbean, on our economies, on the tourism industry, because for all of the countries in the Caribbean, all with no exception, regional tourism is either number one or number two in terms of contribution of tourism to these countries. And while we appreciate the investments with Inter-Caribbean, and we applaud them, and Caribbean Airlines and Win Air, but there's still a gap because of the absence of LIAT. And therefore, we have to work towards filling that gap if we're to get back to our pre-LIAT servicing of the region. Because air travel in islands like this is really one of public good. This is like pipe-borne water to a community. You'll never be able to charge people the rates that you ought to charge them to pay your bills as a water company, far more to make a profit. Because you understand that the provision of water to citizens is paramount from a sanitation standpoint, sanitary standpoint, from a health standpoint, from a number of standpoints. You'll never be able to charge people. This is why in countries like ours, it's difficult for a private sector entity to own a water company. A national water company may own a bottling company, but not pipe one, because the government will have to sustain a significant portion of that investment that is not passed on to the consumer. So even in Dominica now, we are subsidizing water because water is a public good. Now the question is, how long can you continue to subsidize water? Should people not be paying a little more? And we have indicated that before. We have not implemented it because we're still fighting with OASCO what the rate should be, because we have to make sure that whatever increase you give to the OASCO, that it is not for him to spend or to buy new things and other things at the expense of the consumers. So, but we have to find an important balance. So in respect to LIAT and so on, whatever outfit we're prepared to support and invest, because it is so crucial for our economies, for us to have planes flying in the skies of the Caribbean. And my view, my personal view, and I think that's the view of many people, because air travel in the Caribbean is a public good, you must have some kind of government involvement. If you don't have some kind of government involvement, the fares are going to be extremely high. The airlines will not fly into certain destinations at particular times because it may make no economic sense for them to fly in. They will fly where they're making money, and therefore you will find that many islands will suffer because at particular times it makes no sense flying into those countries. In respect to the availability of passports, now, because we had placed a period where you had to transition from the old passports to the new passports, we would have found that people rushed and they used up all the passports which we would have programmed for a longer period of time. And you have that. And then the agreement which we had with Canadian banknote came to an end. And we had to go through the process of the renegotiation of the agreement. And the agreement hadn't been signed. It still hasn't been signed, right? We're still waiting for them to get back to us. But outside of that agreement, we have been able to procure additional books. What do they call them? They call them passport, they call them books. Only because a passport when it's issued. So we call it books. So we have been able to get those books. We ordered how many in total? 10,000 or 50,000? Yeah, 50,000. And and so they're unable to give us the full quantity at one time. So they're going to be sending to us in tranches. But no, we have some books, and so we're issuing passports. But there was a challenge earlier this month, an unfortunate challenge. But I think as the days go by, we're overcoming that challenge, and I'm hoping that very soon that we can sign. On our end, we have cleared all of the points in the agreement. We're now waiting on them to clear the points. But I think we're making good progress from their end, and I'm hoping that in the next few days we can sign this agreement, and then this issue we have would be an issue of the past.
So it was not an issue of we owing.
Well, we owe them, but that was not the prevailing issue. The prevailing issue was that obviously the guys want to secure the next contract for the next years. We hadn't done that, and if you owing them, that was compounded and so on. So we have been able to address this thing and separate the issues. You understand? Separate it, because there are two components to the agreement. One, the provision of the books, and secondly, the border security machines where you have to read the passports. And so the first contract agreement we had with them, this way together. What we said to them, look, separate the two. So we make a requisition for books, we pay you. That is separate from the equipment consideration, because there are other details with regards to the issues relating to the software and the hardware that they provide to us and so forth, so that we do not complicate things as they were, and that we have a simplified approach towards dealing with the passports going forward. I think they have come to accept this and understand that may be the better way to go, and so I think we're well on our way to overcoming whatever challenges existed yesterday.
Prime Minister Skerrit, good afternoon to you. Curtis Matthew from DBS Radio. My first question is on electoral reform. You, Prime Minister Skerrit, promised electoral reform for the first quarter of 2024. Can we see these electoral reform bills go to Parliament this year? That would be my first question. The other question would be on Citizenship by Investment Program. Can you bring us up to date on revenue? How much Dominica would have earned over the last year as far as the CBI program is concerned? And as a sportsman, let me just ask one or two questions in sports. Lighting for the Windsor Park Stadium, where is that matter at the moment? And can you bring us up to date on plans for synthetic track in the Portsmouth area? I'm very sure I'll have a chance to come back a second round.
Yeah, in respect to electoral reform, the Attorney General, along with a team, have gone through the proposal submitted by Sir Dennis Byron in a very scrupulous manner, and also looked at all of the comments and suggestions which came out of the very expansive and engaging national consultation. And in addition to that, taking into consideration the observations and comments we've received thus far from the international observers. And so the Attorney General has gone through this, and there are recommendations on what we believe should go to Parliament for consideration. I believe that all things considered, by the second week of April, we will present to the public, by publication of the recommendations on the government website and making it available to all and sundry, so that they can be aware of what we're proposing to take to the Parliament in respect to electoral reform. Following which, as is required by law, we will submit that to the Electoral Commission. And then once we receive word from the Electoral Commission, we will go to Parliament to pass the legislation and to give the Electoral Commission the legal authority now by Parliament to proceed with implementing the electoral reform measures. In addition to that, we will ensure that the necessary budgetary allocations will be made in this upcoming budget to allow for the Electoral Commission to have the resources to implement the electoral reform measures. So I am satisfied that we will go to Parliament before the end of the financial year and before we present the 2024-2025 budget to the country. It's important that we move ahead with it. My hope and prayer is that those persons who say they want electoral reform and that they are genuinely interested in electoral reform will understand we have to go. We have to move and move with implementing those things. There are other issues that in the Sir Dennis Barron report, which and some of which came out of the consultation, which have implications for the Constitution insofar as constitutional amendments. Our view is that we can achieve our objectives based on what the citizens of Dominica are saying, where electoral reform is concerned, without having to interfere with the Constitution. And if we are to interfere with the Constitution at this stage, then there will be a prolonged process because there are provisions in the Constitution which require you to go for a referendum for many. And do we need any referendum, any constitutional reform to effect the national ID cards and to do the reconfirmation or the confirmation of voters in the voters list and to allow political parties have access to DBS radio during the election campaign. So so I think that there are five, six main points that I wish we can advance. That I believe that if we're all genuinely interested in the electoral reform, that we can achieve our objectives and address the concerns that Dominicans would have raised over time. And so that's the timeline we're looking at. By the second week of April, to make it available, what we're proposing, the draft legislation and so forth, because even in the Sir Dennis Barron report, some of the things that he recommended, and he later, recognized that some of the provisions would be in violation of the Constitution. So I must commend the Attorney General and the other team members who went through this in a very, very detailed manner for the exceptional work that they have done in combing through, because there's one thing to say we're in electoral reform, but there's another thing to be disciplined and to ensure that the legislation is accurate and it satisfies the concerns of the people, etc., etc., etc. But rest assured in this country that Roosevelt Skerrit as Prime Minister absolutely want electoral reform, and I absolutely want it to be dealt with once and for all, and I absolutely want it to go before the budget address of 2024, and to get this out of the way and let us focus on equally important things that are affecting the people of Dominica. And so my hope and prayer is that those who want it, you say you want it, when it's being given to you, please. But I want to say to the people of Dominica that nothing is going to stop me to bring about electoral reform in Dominica. Nothing. I'm going with it. And I'm going to go with it full blast. Full blast. So when you post it, read it. If you have comments, tell us comments. But nobody's going to stop us from going to Parliament to pass legislation. This foolishness has to stop. This game playing we have to stop in the country. And I will not tolerate it where electoral reform is concerned. Okay? And so we'll be the judge of those who say they want it and those who pretend that they want it and do not want it. Though I suspect that some who say they want it don't want it, but that's a matter for them. In respect to CBI funds for this year, well, obviously, I can only give you on financial year, or financial year ends on June 30th. So we'll have to wait for the accounts to be prepared for this financial year, which will end on June 30th. But I'm being advised by the Financial Secretary that for the last financial year, the revenues were $625,338,931 from the CBI funds, from the CBI program that would have been invested in Dominica for various projects and government operational costs, including the payment of national debt. So that's where we are. Lighting of the Windsor Park, as you know, well, the last I got from the Ministry of Sports is that we are we continue to engage the supplier of the lighting system. So I'm hoping that we can get a conclusion on this, and that the Ministry of Sports can advise the cabinet on the contractual amounts and engagement, so that we can implement the lights of the stadium, which is so crucial for us hosting, especially night games and so on, night matches. So we're still committed to this, and we'll have more time as opposed to the shorter period of time which we would have had if we had to host the World Cup. So we have more time to implement this aspect of it and so on. So we're committed to this. The synthetic track, I believe that we engage in the Athletic Association and the DOC, who've been both very helpful. I want to commend Mr. Williams of the AAA and also Mr. Doctrove of the DOC, who've been working very closely for us. They have gotten commitment for some funding. I think it's a matter for us now to finalize the land issues in Portsmouth and the other surrounding issues, and to advance it. I think if I want to be transparent, I think on our end, I think we were complicating the thing a little bit too much, if you ask me. Sometimes we want too much at one time, rather than let us do the track and let us do some more shows, and then we'll take it there. People want to add too many things, and then the cost increases, and then the cost frightens you, and then you hold back and so on. So I think we need to take this thing somewhere step by step. Obviously with a comprehensive plan, but going on a phase basis and so forth. So I'm hoping that the Ministry of Sports can continue to work more diligently in advancing those other issues, and let's move with regards to this construction of the synthetic track. The only logical venue is in Portsmouth area, because it's drier there. The soil is better there. We will get water, but water is too waterlogged in terms of too much moisture in the soil. It's not advisable. So based on what the experts are saying, down there in Portsmouth would be the ideal location. Of course, you have the land, you have the space there and so forth. And the whole issue of diversifying the investments and not having everything congested in one locality would certainly assist with regards to future plans for those areas and so forth. So we're committed to this. I think I've answered all the questions, Curtis? Yeah. But please.
Kewana, DBS Radio. Prime Minister Skerrit, given the recent escalation...
So Curtis is where? From where? DBS?
DBS 1 and DBS 2. Given the recent escalation of the instability in Haiti, could you provide some insights into CARICOM's current approach into addressing the situation? What role does Dominica play in these efforts? And the second part to this question is, we also heard that there will be a Kenyan-led force deployed to Haiti soon. Mm-hmm. How soon do you expect this force to be on island?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Very good question. No, the issue, the situation is very serious, very, very serious, and I believe that the international community has not placed the kind of seriousness and attention on Haiti that it has placed on other parts of the world. There's a war between Russia and Ukraine. We've poured in billions of dollars into Ukraine, and it's fine. They need it. We're not grudging them, but Haiti needs help. Haiti needs help, and there are some who have promised the help, but the help is not forthcoming. Now, I understand that there are certain complications in Haiti with regards to the gangs and the violence and government institution function and so forth. But where there's a will, there's a way. And I believe that there's not really a deep-seated will, and therefore we have been unable to find a more direct path towards assisting Haiti with its challenges. Now, as we all know, Haiti has had a long history of intervention in Haiti and other countries managing the affairs of Haiti and so forth. So there is this historical issue that affects other countries' intentions to help Haiti in the manner in which they should be helping Haiti. So we have to be fair to them as well, the international community as well. From the CARICOM standpoint, what we have sought to do is to seek to lead the way in working with the Haitian people, in putting them together or getting them to understand that they need to define a Haitian-led solution to Haiti's situation. So what we've been doing is to provide the logistical support, the guidance, the encouragement of all of the actors in Haiti. And we've met with all of the actors in Haiti, political parties, church leaders, the business community, civil society, former prime ministers, former presidents, former ministers, you name it, we have met with them in Haiti. As a matter of fact, for the month of March and for the month of February, I have spent more time on Haiti than I spent on Dominican issues. You know, and so this is the kind of support we've been providing. Up to tonight, we have a meeting at 8 o'clock on Haiti again by Zoom to follow up on some of the outstanding issues there. I know that the Haitians have been meeting among themselves as stakeholders to look at the possibility of establishing a transitional presidential council that would help pave the way for setting a date for elections and ensuring that the conditions to host free and fair elections in Haiti is in place, and that the humanitarian crisis can be put to an end, and that the security issues can be abated, and so forth. Now, and so you have that aspect of, and of course, Prime Minister Henry has indicated that he will resign as Prime Minister once this transitional presidential council is established. There's been some movements based on what the Haitian people are telling us, because we're in touch with them on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. And my hope and prayer is that the Haitian people you're not able to agree on everything, but let's agree on some things. Or you guys should agree on some things and advise the international community, this is what we've agreed among ourselves, and we're ready to go, and that's where some of the help can come in. Now, there's the force that has been approved by the United Nations to go in to help with the security of Haiti. Kenya has indicated that they will provide 1,000 police officers, and they will be essentially leading the forces going in. There are other Caribbean countries that have offered military personnel to join the Kenyan forces. But I believe that people are waiting for the transitional presidential council to put in place before they come in. And so the security forces won't come in, I suspect, based on what we know, until and unless this council is put in place and a prime minister has been declared and a prime minister has been appointed, and so that one can have the authority to speak and to take action and so forth. Having said all of this, I still believe that more can be done by some of the countries, and I think that one get the sense that we may be dragging our feet, and time is not on the Haitian people's side, because the situation is getting worse and worse, and I think that we cannot hope and pray that something can be done sooner rather than later, because it's already late. So by tonight, my suggestion to CARICOM is that we should convene another meeting that similar to what we convened in Jamaica, with all of the Americans, the Canadians, the European Union, the French, CARICOM, Brazil, and others, to assess, because it's over a week now since we met in Jamaica, and to assess where we are and what else needs to be done to support the Haitian people. But I believe that there was a meeting of the UN Security Council today, but we don't want more speeches. We don't want more talking. And Haitian people need money, and they need all the help that they can get. to restore their lives and livelihoods, and to allow people to go back to normal living. But we are committed, from me personally, I'm committed to the Haitian cause, from an ideological and philosophical standpoint. As a student of history and knowing the contribution of Haiti to our humanity, we all owe it to the Haitian people. And I think that we have to do all that we can to ensure that they get the help that they deserve and they need at this time. Yeah.
Right, PM, taking the second bite. The Samoa agreement, we spoke about that some time ago. You mentioned that you had to see Archbishop Malze, and then you also stated that you would have signed, but you had not yet signed.
Yeah.
So we want to know where we are at now, since the last time you said you had not yet signed.
Yeah.
So give us an update on that. Also, the police chief situation, since you will be the one giving us the update on that. It's supposed to be coming up in the next few days. What's the latest? In an interview with the Minister of National Security, he expressed, in fact, he stated that he's very confident in the work that the present acting chief did or is doing at this point in time. So I suspect that would be a green light to continue. Also, DBS Radio has been without a board. I asked that question some time ago. Mr. Mills has resigned since, I think, June of 2023. What is the update on that? You are the minister responsible for that. Can you also, you're telling me he's no?
Sir. That's right.
He is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, can I only issue DBS? Can I is technically correct? Yeah. The law speaks to the Prime Minister direction of DBS, but the Prime Minister can, in fact, assign the day-to-day oversight of DBS Radio to any minister, and that is with the Minister for Information. So, but in respect to the appointment of the manager of DBS, general manager of DBS, and the law is very specific in respect who has the authority to appoint. I think that has been addressed. I think the new board, because they're board members, you know, the chairman did not show up for work but the board continues to function. I think we just need to reappoint a chairman, and a deputy chairman is already in place. So that will be done in the next couple of days. There, I think we've identified somebody to be the chairman of DBS Radio. But I think by and large, DBS is doing very well on its own, you know. You know, so they pay their bills on their own, and 99% of the time the news is accurate. so they know. Okay. Now the issue of the Samoa agreement, we've in fact signed, and we announced that publicly. We signed. I think some of the concerns which persons raised, I don't think that they were far-fetched, or I don't think that they were out of place. I don't think that they don't have a point, because sometimes the language in these documents can give you different interpretations or different readings. You understand? But I would say that I don't believe that what they say that it intends to achieve, it will not achieve. It will not achieve it. You understand what I'm saying? Clearly the European Union has a particular view about things, and they would like us to agree with them on these things. But obviously we don't agree with them on those things. And so it's a matter of finding language with some kind of nuance. But based on how you interpret it, you may, you know, if you want either of the extremes of the continuum, you may have a different interpretation of this thing. But I don't think the agreement will cause any harm to the Dominican people or cause us to go in a particular direction that people think that the document wants us to go. I think overall it's a good document. It's a good agreement. And so forth. And it was necessary for Dominica to sign it for a number of reasons, which I will not spend time speaking to. So we've in fact signed the agreement. I think we did about 2 weeks ago in Brussels. the acting police chief, I will need to advise the president before I can say anything to the public. And so once the president would have received the necessary documents as per the Constitution, then I can announce the country in respect. I can respond to your question. But out of courtesy and respect to the office of president, I cannot tell you before I tell the president. You see what I'm saying? So I will tell the president first. Once I tell the president, then you will know. After that. Okay? But thank you very much, sir.
Yes, Prime Minister, I have covered the Westcott Jones story for a few years now. Westcott Jones, a security officer at Douglas Charles Airport, relieved of his duties just around 9 years ago. My information is that Westcott Jones is still unemployed and waiting for a settlement in that matter. Can you bring us up to date based on the information you have? What is the latest to do with Westcott Jones? And while on Westcott Jones, I also want to ask about the stevedores at the Dominica Air and Seaport Authority. That impasse that took place well over 22 years ago, that story has been around for the last 22 years. Mm-hmm. You have intervened, by the way, Prime Minister Skerrit, you have intervened in that matter to bring a sort of settlement to the Dominica Air and Seaport Authority and the stevedores and longshoremen. What is the very latest as far as you're concerned? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, the Westcott Jones matter, as I understand, is before tribunal. And so I will leave it at that. I did, in fact, meet with Mr. Jones sometime last year with an effort for me to seek to intervene again. But I think that some of the things that he was demanding, I was not in a position to carry those messages. And so that's the matter will remain with the tribunal to determine what is the outcome of this situation. Okay. In regards to the stevedores, as you know, I have met with them a couple of times. Based on my request, they wrote to me making a written suggestion as to what would be acceptable to them in the circumstance, all things considered, as a settlement to the issue. Now, I just want to reiterate publicly that I am using my good offices to seek to find a working solution or outcome to the situation, because the matter is still before a tribunal. And whatever I do is without prejudice to this. So they have submitted their formal suggestion to me. I have met with the CEO of DASPA. He has indicated to me what they had discussed back then and what is the offer. I'm hoping that in the next few days I can say that to the stevedores, to the WAU, and then maybe see what kind of movements both sides can make. It's going to require both sides to make some movements, because the number which stevedores are asking is higher than what DASPA is suggesting. And so both sides will have to make some movements and so on. So that's the next step. So once I get back from China, I'm hoping to get the chairman of the board of DASPA and involved and so on, because ultimately the board of DASPA will have to advise on this. So I'm hoping to have a meeting with the board and the general manager of DASPA and representatives of WAU, stevedoremen, to see whether we can make some movement on either side. Okay? And once there's agreement to a number, then we can prepare an agreement that both parties will sign, bringing an end to the situation. And so I'm hoping that both sides can understand that it makes no sense we continuing this thing into perpetuity, right? But there has to be reasonableness on both sides. So DASPA has to be reasonable, stevedores have to be reasonable. And once there is this, I want to say that the engagement thus far with stevedoremen have been very respectful, very professional, very clear. So I think, and Mr. Badwe is not as antagonistic as 10 years ago in respect to that point. So you're a little bit more mellow, I would say. So I believe that the wicket is very good for arriving at some kind of amicable resolution. Yeah. I mean, so I think we can find. I think we can negotiate something. I am satisfied we can negotiate something that both parties can pop the champagne on and bring a closure to this matter. So as soon as I get back from China, if I was there, well, I'd love to do it before the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So by the time he would have been raised from the dead, then we would have settled this matter. But as soon as I get back, God's willing, then but I think there's good understanding, and we'll do that and so forth. So I'm happy that some movements have been made. I don't expect them to necessarily agree with what Mr. Barry is suggesting. So I understand that. This is why both sides have to move. You understand? And I'm hoping I can urge both sides to move and so on. Okay? But I'm confident that we can get something. Yeah.
The Chronicle. Should we expect any piece of legislation? Oh, Khadija, Chronicle. Should we expect any piece of legislation introduced as part of this fiscal's budget address for the sperm whale reserve? I know that this was actually part of conversation sometime last year, November. I just want to confirm that this year we will be seeing some form of legislation on the table for this year's budget address.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The question regards, as you know, we declared a sperm whale reserve for Dominica, all in an effort towards the protection of the whales. Dominica is in a unique situation where we have permanent whales that are permanently resident in Dominica, and it is an important source of business for many people in Dominica and a major attraction to our country. But we have to ensure its future. We have to ensure its protection so that we have to ensure that we protect the whales as far as practically possible. And so the intention of the legislation is to separate a fish from a mammal, because a whale is not a fish. So the piece of legislation will be separate from the Fisheries Act, dealing specifically with the reserve and the protection of the whales and issuance of permits for whale watching and for research, etc., etc. So it's a comprehensive piece of legislation. It is in draft form. The last time the Minister for the Blue Economy, Honorable Defoe, presented the Cabinet last week. One of the things that was holding us back, as he reported, was that the committee was of the view that they should draft the regulations at the same time and take everything to the Parliament. But I disagree with that approach. I believe that we should approve the bill and then deal with the regulations, so that we have an act, and of course we'll give it the additional legs that by way of regulations to speak to more specific actions. So we have advised that this draft bill should go before the Cabinet Subcommittee on Legal Affairs, because the Cabinet Subcommittee on Legal Affairs, where all of those legislation go, and that will be presented by the Line Ministry, so that we can deal with policy issues, and then they will advise the Cabinet of the final draft bill. So we don't have to wait for the budget address. Once it is finalized, we'll go to Parliament to have it passed. Because we are concerned that because of all of those positive recognition of Dominica by so many international publications, and what we have done where resilience is concerned, where we have done to reduce our carbon footprint and etc., where the environment is concerned, the marine reserve is concerned, marine space is concerned, there has been an increase of visitors who come in specifically for whale watching, coming for scuba diving, for snorkeling, etc., etc. And so the economic opportunities in those areas are increasing. And so you have more people involved in whale watching business now than there were 5 or 10 years ago. And you have more people coming to do research on whales now than we had 10 years ago. And therefore it's important for us to regulate it and so that we do not have a situation where 5 boats are running after 2 whales at the same time and stressing the whales and eventually maybe causing them to leave the Dominica waters. And so the legislation is taking all of these things into consideration and ensure that we have a properly regulated, properly protected whale community in Dominica, because the first and foremost is not about the economic benefit of the whales to Dominica. It is the protection of the whale itself and ensuring that we protect its ecosystem, we protect its habitat and its feeding so that they'll always be with us. Because once we protect the whales and we assure their existence and their survival, then we'll have the opportunity. But we cannot rush to squeeze the opportunities of the whale and in the process kill them, and then tomorrow we have no more whales and then the entire industry or subsector goes away. So the primary focus for us is to protect the whales and ensure that they have the peace of mind in our waters and so forth. So we're well onto this, and I'm hoping that very soon we can finalize the legislation and take it to Parliament and so forth, and then follow through with the regulations. Yes. Thank you very much. That's it.
So that's my final question. I get the impression that we're about to close in a while. Carla will have the final say. Prime Minister Skerrit, a public officer called me last night asking me to read out the report from the IMF to her. Read out the report from the IMF. That I did. And I'm saying that because some people are questioning whether, in fact, with salary negotiations to begin sometime next month, how will that, as far as you're concerned, how will that influence the results of salary negotiations between, of course, the government and the PSU? And the final question, the United Workers' Party leader, Dr. Thompson Fountain, said this week that they're going to convene an economic forum in June. He's saying that the government ministers and public officers will be invited. Prime Minister, is that a conference that you will attend if you're invited?
Yeah. Salary negotiations. I don't want to preempt what the unions will submit to the government negotiating team. There's a government negotiating team who will receive the proposals from the various unions and to engage them in negotiations and then advise the government on the conclusions of those negotiations. So I do not want to preempt. All I would say is that we need to ensure that sensibilities prevail in whatever we do, that this is but one country, and we have to be mindful of the external circumstances, the prevailing conditions in the world. So while the IMF has reported there's growth in the economy, we have not gone home to sleep. You understand? Because we are mindful that while there is growth, there are still the threats to the economy. We still have the Russia-Ukraine war continuing. We still have the Gaza-Israeli situation continuing. And we have an upcoming hurricane season, which has been predicted will be a very active one. So we are mindful of those things, and any one of those events can cause you to fall back on all of the efforts that you've made. So we have to be, every one of us has to be a bit practical and pragmatic in what we say and what we do. And we have, obviously, you recognize that the IMF has cited, for example, the National Employment Program, because it's a huge chunk of money about $60 million every year. So it's not a small program. And it has also commended the government's ability to sustain and maintain the social protection programs. These things are not being done because we have money, we do not know what to do with it. These things are being done because we have prioritized them and because we understand the importance of those programs to those who are benefiting from it and its contribution to fighting poverty and economic empowerment of our people. So whenever we do or say, all of those things would have to be taken into consideration because we don't have 5 treasuries, we have 1 treasury, and so we have to be mindful of that. But I don't want to preempt what the unions are going to. They have a right to make their requests based on what they see, how they see things, and we'll wait to see it because the IMF has indicated that there's growth and the prospects are good for growth. But it has also highlighted certain dangers, lurking dangers, and dangers ahead that the government has to be mindful of in order for it to sustain the growth projection that they have identified in the economy of Dominica. Economic Forum. Well, I haven't heard about this. You first person hearing that. Okay. But I'll wait to see if I get an invitation. If I get an invitation, if I am here, I may attend. If I'm not here, well, somebody will attend for me. But I don't understand how people are saying that we should do nothing. I'm going to talk about economic development. Because for there to be economic development, you must be doing something. Grow food. Start a small business. But if men home watching TV and cartoons, and they're telling you, well, I won't say the other thing in that. That's for another time there. Yes. You see what I'm saying? And men receiving their pension and gratuity. And men in South Sudan making the big money from an NGO there. And when Thompson come there on vacation, he spent 1 week in Dominica and the rest of the time, or the 365 days in South Sudan. What economic development going to work Dominica? You see what I'm saying? It's better Thompson tell me you want to be appointed ambassador to South Sudan. Than, because if you spend more time in a country, you're a resident in a country, You something because where you earning your money, that's where you're a resident, And so the man is not a student. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, there's nobody in the UWP I see who has leadership qualities. They may have gone to school and studied a book and passed an exam and so on, but you're not seeing that brightness shining by what they say or what they do. And part of the problem is that they are preoccupied with hate, that their talent and skills, they cause it now to be buried by their negative expressions. And this is why UWP is not benefiting from the brightness they have around them. Because people are not advising them based on their intellectual capacity or their knowledge. They're advising them based on hate and envy and jealousy and besmirching the country and so forth. And but I do not. I mean, Dr. Thompson might be a bright fellow, but I don't think he has articulated any profound policy initiatives at any time. At any time. So who are the facilitators? Hector John on education. Earl Williams will call from New York on legal affairs. Who else we have there? Mr. Linton on finance. Who else we have there? Monel on agriculture, animal husbandry. Who else we have there? Who else we are there? That's it. That's it. And so if the most profound philosophical and ideological view that a party can think about is do nothing, then it tells you all that what you need to know about the interests of these people. To encourage people to do nothing, to encourage people to stay home and not take care of the elderly. So let's close chances and the children there. Let's close the infirmary. Let's don't teach the children. They live on the streets. The nurses, they stay home and the doctors don't come in when you're called in. These are the kind of dangerous things that we're talking about. And shut down the airport, tell the operators to stay home, and tell the civil men don't offload the boats and so forth. So what's the theme of the economic forum? But I will wait. I'll wait to see you invited, but boy, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure, but I have so many things to do. I have so many things to do. So many things to do. Okay. But thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much. And we end on this lighter note. You have some questions. You have questions, please.
Me?
You have questions? Last question?
No. We will.
We fine?
Yes, we'll leave that for Good Friday.
Good Friday. Okay. But thank you very much, the media. Thanks for your questions. I see you came for me this afternoon, But we appreciate the questions, and I hope my responses satisfy your inquiries and so on. We'll try to give you the information that we have in a transparent way. And I want to wish everybody a good night, and let us continue to work and build our country. The glass is not half empty, the glass is half full. And it's left to us now to make a contribution to get it to the brim, so we can have more prosperity for every citizen in Dominica. Thank you very much.
The press conference is ended. Thank you for coming, everyone. And thank you also to our listeners and viewers. Good afternoon, all.